I, 32 female, was adopted as a baby. It was supposed to be a closed adoption, but my biological parents' names were visible on the paperwork that came from the hospital and adoption agency. I was able to track down my bio mom about 10 years ago. We exchanged a few emails and talked on the phone, and she sent me photos of my bio siblings who were not placed for adoption. I expressed interest in meeting my bio siblings, and my bio mom said she was sure they'd like to meet me also, but she needed time to break the news of my existence to them because she felt a certain way about having kept it a secret for 20 plus years. As I said, that was 10 years ago. Bio mom never reached out again to let me know she told the rest of the family about me, nor did I hear from any of them, so I assume my existence is still a secret. And when I did try sending her an email about something unrelated, it was actually a medical history question. At one point after that, I never got a response. So my read is that she's not interested in further contact with me, which is understandable and more than fine. On the other hand, although I did try for a while, I was never able to find my biological dad. I've recently been considering submitting my DNA to 23andMe in the hopes that I maybe can find him or family members on his side. I'd also like to know more about my ethnicity and heritage. But I know that if I do so and anyone on my biological mom's side has submitted DNA or does in the future, they'll see that I exist. I've respected my bio mom's wishes not to reach out directly to my bio siblings even though I have their contact information. I can't shake the feeling that doing 23andMe is just a sneaky way of circumventing that and acting all innocent. It feels crappy and like it would be a betrayal. I considered trying to send my bio mom a heads up that I was planning to submit my DNA, but since our interaction ended with her ghosting me, I worry that sounds like a threat or an ultimatum. So, am I the idiot if I submitted to 23andMe to find my dad, or should I try to warn my bio mom first? Edit. From what I've been told, there was nothing too bad or traumatic about my conception. My bio dad was someone my bio mom was casually hooking up with in her early 20s. When she found out she was pregnant, she didn't tell him because she knew she didn't want to raise a baby with him. Honey, you are not the idiot. Don't worry about her feelings. She's not worried about yours. Worse, this woman couldn't be bothered to get back to you regarding a question about your medical history. Ugh. Wanting to know your biological family is a valid reason to use 23andMe. You don't owe your biological mother to keep her secret. You have every right to contact your siblings too. I would warn her if you'd consider doing that so she can break the news herself. Yet if she doesn't reply, you have the right to contact them. Yet you should always be prepared that they, and your biological mom, might not respond in the way you expect them to respond. Yep, it's a publicly available test that OP pays for, so no other person has the right to stop her, nor is she required to inform anybody whatever her purpose. I fully believe that medical history should be provided during a closed adoption. Everyone should be entitled to that, to know what to screen early for. OP has no idea if there's a family history of cancer, diabetes, high blood pressure, stroke, etc. I might be a little salty because I reached out to my bio dad last week and that monkey fighter blocked me. And I think it's freaking rude that your bio mom ghosted you. Regardless, you can't live your life tiptoeing around her. It's not a personal attack against your mom. You have the right to learn about yourself. She's had 10 years to break the news. That's far more than enough time. Test away if you desire. Donor-conceived person here. My take is a little different from other folks. I would proceed with extreme caution and understand that your bio dad might not want his entire family informed before he has a chance to decide what he wants. I know because I did precisely that and blew my shot at ever getting to know him. Do not message relatives with questions about bio dad or anything else without his consent. In my honest opinion, you are the idiot if you don't take precautions. But more importantly, you might miss out on knowing bio dad at all. I wish you luck finding your bio dad, but be aware he may not want to know you. I, 23 female, will keep it short. My new sister-in-law is extremely rude, 25. She will straight up ignore you if you try to talk to her. She's never engaged with the group and is always on her phone. One-word answers are very common, eye rolls and so on. This has been brought up multiple times to both of them, and the reason she gives is that she's an introvert. I'm also an introvert, and I know that means I get my battery charged by myself and not in group settings. It doesn't mean introverts don't know how to interact with people or be polite. We were having dinner for the youngest 21st birthday. After the food, everyone was mingling. My mom tried to talk to her but got a cold shoulder. While she was on her phone, I asked if she wanted a take-home box for some cake. I was asking everyone this. She ignored me. I asked again and she told me she was an introvert, leave her alone. I snapped and told her I didn't realise being an introvert makes you a rude witch. She looked shocked and my brother called me a jerk for this. We had an argument and then left. The family agrees she is rude, but I shouldn't have said that. My sister asked why we invited her to family events because she always acts like that. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Nope, she's just a straight-up idiot. Being an introvert isn't an excuse to act like this. The way to go about this is to feed into it. Don't talk to her. Ever. Offer her nothing. When someone says, go get everyone, make it everyone but her. Never acknowledge her or speak with her. Give her nothing. Invite her to nothing, and don't remind her or call her over for anything. Ever. When she speaks, don't even acknowledge her. When she complains, throw her attitude back at her. But you're an introvert, so obviously you don't exist and can't be bothered. That's not my problem. Then I roll right back at her and go back to ignoring her. LOL, I love this. It's not even petty. Why burden someone with the hardship of hanging out with family? If she doesn't want it, don't include her. She'll either be happy or realise she's being stupid for no reason. Either way, it's a win-win situation. Yeah, what a miserable person she is. I'm an introvert and I have awful anxiety. Sometimes I cry from relief because I walked into the door of stop inviting her. I, 25 male, have been married to Ella, 25 female, for 2 years now. Ella is very close to her dad Steve and so are Ella's 3 older siblings. I'm also very close to Steve and I have a better relationship with him than with my family. We spend a lot of time with Steve, Ella's 3 siblings and their partners. It's nice. When we met, I knew Ella loved being close to her family and liked living near them. I find it great too, since we always have family close by and it's a loving and supportive family, not just people who want you when they want something from you. Steve lost his wife, aka my late mother-in-law, when Ella was only a baby. They married and had kids at a young age, and Steve was a widower by age 25. He devoted the next 18 years to raising his kids and making all 5 of their lives, the kids and his own, as good as it could be. He's never dated or sought another romantic relationship and has no interest in one. He still adores his late wife and doesn't feel he could ever look at someone else and want them romantically. This is something that Steve's sister has been against, upset by, and very opinionated on. Over the years, Steve's sister has told him he needs to move on and has thrown women his way in the hopes he would find someone and open himself up to falling in love. She tried telling Steve he would end up alone and miserable once the kids moved out, that he wouldn't have anyone around him. She tried to convince him he was dying for a woman and romance and an adult of a similar age to him to spend his life with. From what Steve has told me, she's been pretty annoying about it. Which gets me to the conflict. We celebrated Steve's birthday a little later than planned, last weekend to be exact, because life got in the way. His sister came into town to surprise everyone and she said she wanted to celebrate with her brother. The dinner quickly turned into the sister encouraging him to date again, dismissing Ella and her siblings when they pointed out he isn't alone like she was saying, and her telling them that they simply wanted him to remain faithful to their ghost mother forever. Steve and his sister were fighting about it. She said it was crazy and ridiculous that all 4 of his adult kids stayed local. She claimed they were doing it because they felt bad for him and that he needed someone to help them spread their wings. My oldest brother-in-law said they just like being near their dad and each other. She said that's not what Steve needs. He needs a woman. He needs a wife. He needs intimacy. This is when I jumped in and asked her why she was so obsessed with her brother's intimate life and why she had nothing else to worry about. She was taken aback by my interference and she told me to learn how to speak to people politely. Steve told her I had a point and he asked her to leave. She claimed I owed her an apology for my accusation against her character. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Oh, the hypocrisy. Do polite people obsess over the intimate life of a sibling? Do polite people dismiss the thoughts and feelings of several people, i.e. Ella and her siblings? Do polite people refer to a dead relative as a ghost mother? You do not owe an apology, and I'd be willing to bet the dad, Ella, and all of the siblings would be grateful that you helped defend against her obnoxious onslaught. I cannot imagine sitting at a table with my brother's children present and proceeding to talk about his intimate life. Lord, Auntie must live a pretty dull life. She needs to back off and back off fast. Her brother's life isn't her concern. His children are grown, and he's an adult and can make choices for himself. Good job sticking up for your father-in-law and your wife's family, really. My 28 female husband, 37, is a huge coffee geek. He has a separate set of shelves and equipment for it. I've tried to learn more about his process and how to brew over the years, but it just doesn't click for me as it does for him. I always buy instant or go to Starbucks because it's all the same to me. He never says the coffee I've made is bad, he just says that something is always off. It's too bitter, astringent, weak, etc. But thanks me anyway for my efforts. My husband has been busy at work for the past 2 weeks. He freelances and his latest client turned out to be very difficult. He's had to make a lot of edits for this project. As a result, he's more stressed than usual and is working longer hours. So I thought that if I made him a coffee in the way he liked, that would cheer him up about it all. Long story short, he didn't like what I brewed. He didn't really have anything nice to say about my gesture, and then when he learned what beans I used, he was very annoyed and shut me out of his office without saying anything. He had 2 containers of beans on the shelf. I used the container which was small and finished it. I didn't realize it was a rare coffee that was processed in a unique way. It cost more than triple the other bag, which was mainly full and double the size. I thought that using up the beans in the smaller container made more sense, so he could buy himself another bag from the long list of beans he wanted. He only has 2 bags at a time, so he can appreciate them a lot more, whatever that means. He's upset with me because I didn't ask permission, and he could have told me which bag to use if I was going to try to make him a coffee. I'm upset with him for his reaction, no thanks, and shutting me out of his office. I think the whole permission thing is so gross to me, and I shouldn't have to ask whether I can use something in our home. Am I the idiot? I don't understand why you chose a time when he was already stressed out to attempt something you've never mastered and used up your partner's, yes, it's his, even though you both live there, special ingredients in the process. I'm going to say everyone's the idiot here, because he shouldn't take it out on you, but I think he's right to be annoyed, and again, he's already stressed. You should have picked a more crowd-pleasing gesture. It also seems like Opie is trivializing her husband's hobby. My wife is into wine, and I'd never open one of her good bottles without her permission, and even though we've never discussed it, I'd never take anything from her sewing room or go in there without her, as I'm pretty sure she never goes into my workshop. Yesterday, she was unscrewing a screw with a nail file, and I told her to grab a screwdriver, and her response was, "Oh, I'd never take one of your tools out of the man cave. I can manage." She did somehow get that screw out with the nail file too, LOL. Yeah, I got that impression too. Just calling him a coffee geek feels very, oh, you and your silly hobbies. You are the idiot. I get you tried to help, but you know he's stressed as heck. You know you don't know how to do his coffee things how he likes. You messed up and used the fancy stuff and did it wrong. Then you're angry he doesn't have the emotional energy to praise your effort. If you're going to do something to help him feel better, maybe focus less on how it makes you feel versus what he needs. You need to apologize and have a discussion about what boundaries should look like in your relationship and home. Update. Thank you for the advice, everyone. I apologized this morning over breakfast and offered to buy him a new bag of the coffee I used. I also asked for advice on a bag I can buy to practice making it for him. All is good in our household now. My sister Amelia has 2 children, Theo, tween, and Tony, preschooler. Tony was born with a disability, which means he has very high support needs, and this is something that was diagnosed before birth. Amelia split up with her ex Brad over this while she was still pregnant. Brad pays child support for both children but only has partial custody of Theo. Both Amelia and Brad should have done a better job of protecting Theo from the realities of the divorce. Unfortunately, he is well aware that they split up because of issues surrounding Tony, and this has caused problems. As a child of divorce, I can understand. Everyone's quality of life declined as a result of the divorce. He hates Tony, blames Amelia, and only wants to be at his dad's with his step-siblings. Watching my sister become a shell of herself and her relationship with Theo sour on both sides has been painful. It's easy to say he's just behaving badly, which he is, but she's run out of patience with him and gives him no grace regarding his valid feelings. At the end of last year, Theo's teacher called his parents over a creative writing assignment in which he expressed some thinly veiled feelings about Tony, and the teacher was concerned. Theo is now in therapy. This incident prompted Brad to take Theo's begging to live with him full-time seriously, and he's now suing for full custody, and Amelia is fighting it. She asked me to write a character reference for her, and I said no. I was honest that I didn't feel comfortable advocating against Theo's wishes, especially when I've seen firsthand how they're both struggling with how things are. Amelia was furious, saying I was a bad sister for not helping her, and that if she couldn't even get one person who thought she was a good enough mother to keep seeing her son, then she would lose him. She also said if Theo gets his way now, she will not be able to repair their relationship. I understand all of that, but how I see it, her having him around damages the relationship. More importantly, I don't have any right to say Theo should be somewhere he doesn't want to be. I love him and spend as much time with him as possible, but I'm not qualified, professionally or personally, to know what's best for him. I said all this to Amelia, but all she heard was that I wouldn't help her keep her child. Our mom and stepdad also said no, and she's no longer speaking to any of us. The only person who said yes is our dad, but he barely knows the kids. He only said yes because he's just the ride or die type and he's a flake, so I doubt he'll ever send the letter. The point is, I don't think Amelia is a bad mother, but I just don't feel right putting my name to something I don't feel sure about, even if I may contribute to an outcome she didn't want. Does that make me the idiot? Edit, to clarify, Brad wanted to terminate, which they'd previously agreed to do when family planning, but Amelia changed her mind when the time came. They split over this. Not the idiot. Your sister isn't putting Theo's best interests first and is instead making her own the priority. It's a terrible situation and messy, but it's not a mess you have to clean up. It's not right for her to try to guilt you into this. It's awful that she's losing her child like this, but if nobody would write that letter for her, it's kind of telling that it's the right choice for Theo. You did your best in an impossible situation. Your sister is hurt, but that's not actually on you. So, is it in the best interest of the child to give full-time custody to the parent who already abandoned, custody-wise, one child? He left her to parent their disabled child, didn't help at all, and as a result had the more appealing home and now wants to cherry-pick the healthy one. It's parental alienation, just in an indirect way. It's not parent alienation. Some people cannot cope with disabilities, and having a disabled child is hard work, and having a child you resent is not healthy. He would have been a bad father to Tony because he didn't want him. It sounds like Amelia went ahead with the pregnancy because that is what she wanted, and she didn't consider her husband or her other child. That's just selfish, and now she's reaping what she sowed. The thing is, Amelia neglected Theo for Tony. Obviously he wants to stay with the parent he sees as prioritizing him.